I do have to say the 8:30 time's so much nicer.
So true.
It takes away the stress from everybody.
Actually, gave me enough time to actually get up and get over to the office, so I don't have to bother my wife with me talking about down shielded lights and shade studies in the living room.
So the recording has started, Mr. Chair. We're
All
ready
right.
whenever you're ready.
Well, let's get going. I'll call this to order 8:33. Well, Rosemary pops in. We'll just note what time she jumps into the. But we have quorum, right? Ready to go?
Yeah, we have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Right on. Let's get going. Let's do a roll call.
Okay. Miss Anthony?
Here.
Miss Bright? She's not here. Miss Clement?
Here.
Mr. Hayes? You're muted.
Yeah, here. I'm here. Sorry.
That's fine. Miss Shaw?
Here.
And Mr. Stevie?
I am here.
Okay, we have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Wow, review and approval of February 7th. Wow, that's been a minute, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's I say I'll make the first motion. Let's move to approve those. Put them in the folder.
I'll second.
Second by Cade.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Let's move on to our big show today. Let's get any updates from staff on this before we jump in.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB. So this is the Tucson Children's Museum additional building for their activities. I just call it the Children's Museum Annex. I don't know if there's an official name. It's the old Ural building in downtown. They're proposing to continue museum-related activities in this building. They're proposing some modifications on the exterior. That's why it needs a renewable area review. We usually take it to the PRS. This is a contributing structure to the Armory Park National Register. But we usually take it to the PRS first, but their agendas have been so full, we didn't want to hold this project any longer. So that's why we're coming to you first. I don't have it here in the agenda, but I understand Michael Taku, who's here representing historic preservation staff, arranged for a minor review for asbestos abatement. And Michael, do you want to give a quick overview of what took place at that meeting?
Yes, Maria, members of the board. We did a minor review for the exterior for the stucco and some light fixture. The stucco, it's really in bad shape. And so they were going to do some discovery, they were going to tear out some samples, and then whatever they find, they do some treatment for the lead and then replace the stucco as needed. And then there were some light fixtures. Some of them were not operational, but because we consider it like a character defining feature, they were just going to be left in place. They will not be operational, but they will be left in place. So that review has been done. So the exterior stucco, which is mentioned here as far as historic is concerned, that review has been done, recommended for approval, and we do have an approval letter for that. And I did that review with Michael here. He can add more details to what review was done. And that review was done. There was a design professional, Tom Fay, was on the field with us, and we had somebody from Plans Review Subcommittee. So I can only report to you that as far as the historic portion of that exterior part is concerned, we're done and finished. I can answer any follow-up question that the board may have.
Thank you, Michael. And that's all we have, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, and the applicant is here for a presentation.
All right. That's you, Michael, right?
That's me.
Been a minute since
will-
we've seen you around these parts too. Where you been? I was expecting you every month for a while there.
I'll probably be coming more often. We've got several things brewing down there, so you'll probably see a little more of me here in the coming
All
months.
right.
He's a busy man.
Well,
Yeah,
take it away.
this should
Let's see
be-
what you guys got. This
this
after
sh-
reading through this the other day, it seemed like this shouldn't be a super complicated one, but I've said that before.
No, this should be quick. There's only one modification really that we're doing to the outside, and it wasn't clearly documented in the submittal. So Michael Taku, I'll follow up with the have some photographs and one drawing that I'll submit after the meeting. So here's the aerial. This right in the center is the building that we're talking about. It is the old Udall Foundation building. The actual Children's Museum itself is to the southeast of this building, which we're not here at all today for the Carnegie Library building. This is only for the Udall Foundation building. They purchased the building about a year ago. They're renovating it for their own offices and a few sort of activity rooms for birthday parties and things like that. The intent is that they will move their offices out of the old library into this building, and then there will be a future project where we'll be doing some work to the library itself. So we'll come back with that at some point in the future. We're really doing very little to the exterior, and that's why this review hopefully will be fairly quick. The building itself, is from about 1920. I think it was originally the Pima County Health Department building. It's a stucco building. It's a masonry building with stucco on it. Let me figure out how to say this correctly. We were deferring the exterior work until the fall because what we found is that the coating in the stucco, let me get to a photograph. This is it's the same that was on the Marist College. So in the 70s, somebody sprayed it with a Tuftex, which has asbestos in it, right? So we need to strip this entire building and then patch and repair the stucco. The Children's Museum has gotten some funding to do that, some federal funding to do that, but that funding will not come through until the fall. So knowing that, we needed to move forward with the interior renovation. So we've just completed a TI for the interior of the building. And then the rest of the work will be done once we get that funding in the fall. So just to go through these documents real quickly, this is the site plan. We're not really making any changes to the overall site plan or the parking area. We did do a shade study because that is required. And with the work that had been done on Scott, 10, 15 years ago, we were at 52%. So we meet the shade requirements under the RNA. Other than that, this is a photograph of the front of the building. We've since taken this signage down. These are the light fixtures. I'll touch on that in just a moment. And then here's another photograph of the front of the building there. So the main modification that we're making in terms of what we're doing when we do the stucco, we will re-stucco the building. Our intent right now is to go back with similar colors. So we're not really going to change the color palette. And there's actually no other exterior changes. What we did have to do is you can see the front stoop here. We discovered this as we were calling in our final inspections. This front stoop is not compliant from an accessibility standpoint. It is simply too steep. If I go back to another photograph, let me zoom in on this. You'll see what you can see in this photograph is, to the left of the door, this is the original stoop. At some point, they basically just carved all that out and put in it looks like that sort of kitchen tile, that clay kitchen tile. And they created a sloped entry because it used to just be a step up into the building. And this was over 10%. So it simply didn't comply with the entry requirements that we needed to get into the building. So we did design a new front stoop, and that is the only exterior modification that we're doing right now. And what we ended up was this. So the yellow area you see here, that is where you saw that replacement tile that was done. We're removing all of that, extending the stoop out 5 feet, and then extending basically a sloped sidewalk, because this is under 5% to the south. And then we need to extend just a little bit of concrete to create a 5-foot landing at the bottom of the ramp, or the sloped area to get into the building. So along these two sides, it's simply a single step. It's 6 inches. It's actually less than 6 inches. So it doesn't require guardrails or handrails. And then this slope allows for the accessibility into the building. Full disclosure, we did, as we were calling our final inspections, they were not going to give us a C of O if this was not in place. So we have built this. I understand we did this at risk. So we are reviewing this today as if it wasn't done. But I just want to let you know we had to move forward with this because the Children's Museum has to occupy the building at the end of the month. And we simply weren't going to get through this process in time to do that. To show you quickly what that ended up looking like, this is the final product. So you can see that's the extension of that stoop. We did match the Saltillo tile that was there. Although it still is relatively new. This is more of a preservation issue. You can tell the difference between the new and the old tile. And then you can see the ramp coming down to the south, and then that slight extension on the end of the ramp there for the landing. And let's see, it's just a detail. A little bit further away, you can see we did take the light fixtures down. In the meantime, we're going to revisit the light fixture issue with the Historic Commission. The owner would like to not put those back up. We've taken them down so we could do other work on the building. They have been non-functional for a very long time. We have them in the building and we will reinstall them if we have to. But our intent is not to do that. We are putting together a new lighting package that'll come through later for the exterior of the building that will be fully dark skies compliant. So you can see we also under the building code, we had to add a light over the front door because that's a code requirement. So we used a very discreet light for that, just, to complete the interior TI of the project. So other than that, I mean, that's kind of the highlights because like I said, we're not doing any other work to the building itself, other than, we will be repairing the stucco. We did discover this upper band. There's a kind of a sort of a tile pattern in the stucco. It's like a 4x4 scored grid. So we'll be restoring that. So that'll be more apparent. The tough text sort of obscured all that. They basically sprayed everything. So even this cornice was sprayed. So we're going to take that cornice down and end up having a new piece cut to the same profile to match that and put that all back together. So, I mean, I think that's it. So I think I'll open up for questions and see if, what we can fill in for you.
Anyone have anything? I think, Mike, the only thing I saw was, could you talk about the lights just for a second? There was some write-up in that long narrative in there about, are they original historic or are they, it was kind of, I didn't catch all of it, but there was some discussion in your narrative about whether you needed to replace them at all.
Correct. So as Michael Taku mentioned in the minor review that we did discuss those lights with the design professional and with the commissioner from the Historic Commission. We don't have any proof that they're original. We can't find photographs that show them clearly from the period that it was constructed. They appear to be close to they're from that period though. They're clearly early lights. They are completely non-functional and they have cloth wire in them. So for them to become functional again, we'd have to pull the wire, get new wire in. More importantly than that, they are not compliant. They're an unshielded fixture. So our intent, they simply ask that we leave them in place, even if they're non-functional. I think that's a little silly at a certain level. But we'll certainly do that if we need to. I'd rather replace the lighting with compliant modern fixtures like we would typically do on a historic building to show this obviously a new fixture. So, we're still working through that issue. Like I said, we need to get them in the building for the TI portion so they can begin to use the building. And then, when we actually finish this process, we'll come to a full resolution on the lighting.
Even the sconces off to the side are part of this conversation?
They are correct. These 5 fixtures across the front of the building here.
I would say aesthetically, I kind of like this facade with them better than the one without them. Like them dangling down has, I don't know, kind of adds a richness to that colonnade, right?
Sure.
But I'll let historic make that call. Carol?
Yes, good morning. My question has nothing to do with the building, but rather the steel metal planters that are shown in this photograph here.
Yes.
Years ago, I was a member of the Wheatsharf Associate team that designed Scott Avenue. And if I recall correctly, the steel metal planters were sort of a reoccurring theme, cohesive amenity to Scott Avenue. And then, yes, in this existing one, what's happening to the metal planters, and will they be replanted, relocated?
Yes. They're essentially being relocated sort of where you're seeing it here. So we're just simply moving them off to the side a bit. So to open up that front entry a little bit more, and they will be replanted with the similar plantings. We had to get the plantings out of them. They weighed a ton. So we just had to empty them out to actually be able to move them. So yes, all 4 planters will still be in front of the building. They'll just be they'll be more, let's see. So they'll be kind of off to the, in front of you can see how the building has these 2 sort of projections on either side. So they will then frame those 2 projections on either side rather than, they felt a little crowded in the center here. So we felt spreading them out and then opening up that space in front of the building made some sense from a streetscape perspective. So that's what we'll be doing with those.
Okay, thank you. And just from an edification standpoint, we sprayed those when we designed those metal planters. We sprayed them with like a Rhino truck liner. Could you tell me how well did that hold up?
I haven't looked inside of them myself, but the planters themselves are in great shape. So
Awesome.
they don't show any wear at all on the outside.
Great. I
And
will
so
share that.
they'll be planted again with similar plantings to what you're seeing here. When we put it all back together.
That's nice to hear, Michael. I'll share that with Chelsea Marshall, who was the one who came up with that Rhino spray idea. That's awesome. Okay, thank you.
That's a great idea, Carol. I'm gonna have to steal that one.
Yeah, it was Chelsea's idea. It was a great idea. Yeah, everybody laughed, but it worked. It obviously is working good.
Those containers all up and down Scott, I go up and down Scott pretty frequently, are all in way better condition than any other thin walled metal planter that I've seen in downtown in years.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
I spent a lot of time on Scott lately, and that whole project looks great. That whole streetscape improvement, it's really come in nicely and it looks fantastic.
Thank you. We worked very closely with the civil engineers on harvesting water off of Scott Avenue, all those curb cuts and whatnot. So yeah, it was worth the effort. Thank you.
Anyone else have thoughts, comments?
I just have a question. Michael, just on the lights, is there a way to take those existing fixtures and make them compliant with dark sky? Like add opaque panels or something so that the light all points downward?
Yeah, we can investigate. Yeah, sure. Certainly we can investigate that.
I think that's a good idea.
I think that the harder thing is trying to get the wiring replaced. The pathways have been fairly well, obstructed, but we'll take that into consideration. Like I said, we'll be resubmitting a revision for our final lighting plan. So we'll likely come back to you at some point.
Thanks.
Okay. I have one. Can you go back to the photo of the finished? Yeah, that one. What are those 2 holes core drilled into the concrete there? Is that the old Potts locations?
Yeah, that was the irrigation coming into the old pots. Yeah.
So you're just gonna fill those in.
Yep.
Obviously. The only thing I could see is, and it's not really under our purview, Michael, is this face of that landing that's facing us.
Exactly.
The east-west run of it. I might put a
This one.
railing there.
Oh, I've met with the building official and
I mean, it's not
twice,
required, but it
three,
might be
right.
just thinking of the age and the group and like at the end of a incline, like it seems like a typical like, and just to signify that there's a single step, like single steps are more dangerous than multi-steps in my opinion.
Sure.
You know,
No, I agree.
do
And that's
something
why,
to
you know,
signify that step.
yeah, that's why we extended the Saltillo tile so that you had a
Yeah.
clear color distinction to highlight that step.
Yeah, the material changes is good, but it might be something maybe, or a post, like a, you know, we used to do those, just one pole with a, you know, so one person, you know, needs help getting up one step, has at least a handhold in that corner. Might be might be a thought to think about if you end up finding an extra, you know, $2,000 in your budget.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Carol?
Yeah, I had a similar thought. Just off the top of my head, could one of those steel planters be put there as an end, you know, right?
Mhm.
I don't know,
Could be.
just a thought. And then also maybe because it's such fresh concrete, but it's a bit of an eyesore to my eye. The face of curb of the step up to the landing is so bright gray. I'm wondering if that could, everything else is a nice earthy muted tones. I was wondering if that face of curb along the new landing could be stained.
Yeah, we could certainly treat it. So you just want to tone it down a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because everything else, like you're saying, everything else has a kind of patina to it from age. I mean, it will patina over time, obviously.
You take some Palo Verde flowers and rub it in there because that's,
yeah, there you go.
That's what's given that ground plane. It's a little bit of a mottled colors, all the Palo Verde flowers. No, good work. I don't have any objections to what you guys are doing here personally. I mean, rest of the board, do you guys want to actually go through the whole list? I don't know if there's anything on here that's catching my eye.
We should probably tick off the list, but I don't see anything that seems to be objectionable.
Okay. Let's do it at least for dotting I's and crossing T's. Let's Maria, if you could pull up our checklist, we'll do a quick run through that. Michael, and hopefully get you out of here in record time for a DRB meeting.
Great.
All right. Proposed buildings, don't have one of those. New construction, this isn't new construction. All new construction shall provide scale. I think you're defining architectural elements as this building. The commercial building frontage should provide window slides, visible activity. Seems like there's actually a pretty good percentage of window in that front vestibule. That for an old building like this, there's more glass on that front than normal. Building facade design shall include pedestrian scale down shielded glare controlled exterior lighting. At least you have a single light above the door currently, right?
Correct.
Down shielded, and there is indication that you're going to come back and visit us with a lighting update, right? To
Correct.
what you guys decide to do with those lighting. I think we're at least meeting the intent of number 6. Any opposition to that? That was my only one I could think would be our potential hiccup here, but I think
I mean, what's proposed now is the lighting that you saw that we installed, and then reinstalling the historic fixtures in a non-functional capacity, which would then meet the intent in number 6.
Yeah, you're at least providing down shielded glare controlled exterior building lighting.
Yes.
There's no other lighting. Those sconces are going to remain unoperable.
Yeah, all of the original lighting is non-operable. And then there are 2 wall packs on the parking lot side, and we're replacing those with full cutoff fixtures as well.
So in your proposed or your potential lighting package that's coming back, would you be adding any modern lighting?
No, we're simply
on that Scott Ave facade.
No. Other than what you saw, just the one fixture over the door.
Might be kind of dark in there, but those are non-functional currently. Adding one light, adding a light in there is actually better than we have currently, right?
Correct.
Your front door of your commercial building is visible to the street.
Mhm.
Is there any signage going in on this building? There likely would be something.
There is actually a application
Window.
right now for a sign above the doors, basically where the Udall Foundation signage was. We're putting a new signage up there. We had a Angel Charities grant that actually paid for this, so the building's going to be associated with the Angel Charities.
So it'll be wall mounted, not a vinyl window mount.
Correct. It's wall mounted, channel letters, non-illuminated.
All right. Modifications exterior, we complement the overall historical context. I think you're actually honoring quite a bit of the overall historical context of downtown, especially if you decide to keep those lights in place. Buildings designed to shield adjacent buildings and private right-of-ways from reflected heat and glare. That we'll get into the shade study for that. Adequate parking. We have parking there, right?
Yeah, they have a parking lot next door. We're not making any changes to that. And
Could I express a concern I have about the parking lot? That's on the
Anytime,
west.
Carol, just jump on in.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That's on the west side, and there is absolutely no shade on that parking lot. If there's adequate parking and maybe an excess in terms of meeting our sustainability, resilient, reducing urban island heat, is there any possibility that maybe a couple of those parking spots could be taken out and shade trees put in? That looks pretty grim right now. I know it's it's probably not required. It's just a thought, Michael.
Well, and
yeah,
also,
I mean, I can. Sorry, go
there's
ahead.
that building going in next door, right, Michael? That's gonna be a,
Correct. There's a 7-story building going in, basically right dead center in this view. But I mean, we can discuss it with the Children's Museum if they'd like to add some shade trees. Parking obviously is a premium downtown,
Of course.
so we can certainly consider it.
Yeah, that would be appreciated. Any way we can reduce urban heat island and provide shading on to asphalt is always appreciated. So where's that
Okay.
building going? I don't understand.
The parking lot to the west, our parking lot's to the north of the building. So the new building is taking that entire parking lot is now is going to be a 7-story senior housing building.
Oh, so that will provide west shade.
It will.
Okay. Yeah.
It will. It's interesting because they have, I think it's 90 units and there's no parking.
Yep.
Associated with that building.
Maybe they could get some shade into your parking area. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but
Yeah, I mean, the building itself will definitely provide shade in the afternoon.
that will help.
It'd be nice to see a couple trees on that north edge, though. That'd be.
Yeah, right. And
yeah.
also that would shade the sidewalk to the
The
north.
sidewalk
Right.
as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be very nice. A couple trees along there would be lovely.
Maybe there's another grant in their future.
Yeah.
Call up
Or-
Mark Hapgood, CPS.
Or maybe Children's Museum will have a very open heart for shade. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll take a look at it.
Well,
Okay,
since
so-
we're just talking about that, number 11, adequate shade, provided sidewalks, pedestrian ways. Your east facade, the east side is heavily shaded. It's really just that north side that, along that parking that.
Yeah, there's no access at all on the west side, and then the south side
Yep.
is just the sidewalk's too narrow
Sidewalk,
to get
right,
anything
right.
in there. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but
so
that,
money falls in your pocket. We've identified a couple places.
thank you.
Colors conform to the overall palette context downtown. You're maintaining the existing color as close as you can. I saw that noted. There was a lot of color samples taken from the building to try to find the most advantageous color because of the fading over time. So
Correct.
thank you for that effort. New buildings use materials, patterns, elements relate to the traditional context. We're maintaining traditional context.
Okay. We are the traditional context.
You are the traditional context, and hopefully that new stucco can open up that grid pattern on top. That was kind of a popular thing in that era around there, was having some
Yeah.
sort of activity on the top visually. 24-hour street level activity. I mean, it's a children's facility, really, so 24 hours isn't necessarily where we're headed, right? But
No, but I will
definitely
say,
working
I will
hours.
say, yeah, and there will be a lot more activity though, because this building before this was obviously more of an office building. This building, while it will have offices, it's also going to have actual children's activities in the building. So we'll have a lot of children coming and going from this facility throughout the day and on the weekend. So it's going to increase overall. It's going to increase the pedestrian activity in this part of Scott a great deal. So.
Right. And there are availability due after hours, birthday parties, and special events at Children's Museum. So I'm sure that activity will spill over.
Absolutely.
Primary entries directly accessed from the sidewalk. You made that quite a lot easier, actually, by bringing it up to current accessibility standards. Appreciate that. Vehicular circulation, your parking and points of egress are staying as is, and that they meet all of these requirements.
Oh, hey, I just
I
see
believe-
something, screening, go back up, a screening of all parking, where did it go? Of parking, all new parking shall be, oh, it's not new.
It's not
No.
new.
Just
Yeah.
as a argument for shade trees along that north edge of your parking lot, it would help screen the parking lot from the street.
Right.
We have
There's-
there's actually there's an existing wall around the entire parking lot.
Oh, how tall is the wall?
4
4
feet,
feet?
5 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About,
Hmm.
it's like 4 feet opaque with maybe a 3-foot picket top.
I'm trying to remember.
It's okay. Just a thought, Michael, for shade.
I understand. Yeah.
I just want to raise one more point in light of the fact that it might be used in the evening. I'm not sure if that one light over the door is adequate if kids are going to be there at night. And I just want to make another plug for either revamping those historic fixtures or, finding something modern to replace them with that looks appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's street lighting as well that you're not seeing in these photographs.
what's the setback from that street lighting to the building?
Let me share my screen.
Too far.
I mean, it's basically right there because you can see the street lighting is basically in the the landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the curb. So at most, it's, you can see that dimension. It's at most, 18 feet. So all the lighting is sort of right in that area there.
Yeah, I would also second the comment about lighting at the building, which does call for door and window lighting.
Okay.
And if there's going to be events in the evening and spilling into that
There it is. There
front
you can see it there.
courtyard area.
Yeah,
Will
the
that be
lighting,
adequate?
the available street lighting for this block is at the north and the south corner of that block. It doesn't really help your entry area very much. Doesn't assist that. Or there is one right there.
Yep,
Actually,
there's one right there.
Right. Yeah, that one. It was blocked by the trees. I think we're kind of setting up for a condition we're going to add onto here. I think let's make it through this list. I think we have 1 or 2 more things on the list.
Okay.
Plazas and open space, we're not creating any new plazas or open space, but this has a pretty generous off sidewalk space, especially if you move those planters off to the side. It kind of frames that up and actually creates the feeling of a plaza, more of a plaza space, in my opinion. View sheds are being maintained. Your linkages are through downtown. There's consistent sidewalk through there. And thanks to Carol's team effort 20 something years ago, the streetscape is fantastic.
Yes.
And you expressed a shade standard meeting our 50% at our June 21 at 12 noon.
Right.
And that's the last one, right? So number 4. Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing we had a minor hiccup on here is the maintenance
Lighting.
or renovation of that historic lighting, Michael. I think that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an
Well,
effort
and-
worth it, I think, if we can figure that out, because it'll give lighting back up underneath that arcade,
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and we know we need to submit a exterior lighting plan, so that's
So I
not
think-
not an issue for us to come back with that.
Right. So I think talking to the board here, I think that we meet the conditions in spirit, but I think there's a condition added on that lighting needs to be considered, and that I think the condition is that we would recommend maintaining historic or historically as accurate as we can lighting, or lighting in those locations. Any other wording for that people would like to see?
Well, I'm not stuck on the historic aspect of the lighting. I think that modern lighting that differentiates from the historic lighting, I think
Yeah.
that's up to the historic review, but the general, I guess, layout of the lighting in like honoring the historic layout in that arcade would be aesthetically preferred. So
If you could give us some flexibility and that we could replace it with modern lighting, because the other issue with the historic lighting is it doesn't have a UL list on it or
Yes.
anything. So we have
Yes.
a lot of challenges to getting that lighting functional at all. So
I think safety and security and just having something in character with the building would be our priorities.
Yeah.
okay, I can work with that.
Did you write that down? Did we write that down? Because I think that's our condition. Safety and security is the priority versus.
For the lighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm in line with that. Anyone, any other comments? Any challenges to that as being a condition on this? I think that's the only thing I have on there.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, I just have a question to Mr. Becker. So the relocation of the planters and related irrigation for those planters, are you coordinating with the Department of Transportation for that?
No, the Children's Museum is taking responsibility for those and watering those planters.
Okay.
So, and
When you
I didn't-
resubmit your design package, we're gonna have to have DTM take a look. I will be requesting for you to at least include in your shade study the location of the new planters. So I
But
will ask.
are those planters actually belong to DT? I mean, they're on the
I don't
property.
know, but they are within right away. So any modifications proposed to the right of way, they need to be okay with DTM.
Okay.
Maria, would that be a requirement to show how they're being irrigated? that-
That's something I need to talk to DTM
Right.
about it, but I imagine they just based on previous cases that we passed through you, they requested, information about irrigation.
Okay.
And they were irrigated prior, so there's irrigation in the area
Yeah.
dedicated for them. So I think that's a technicality that you probably need to pull together. I wouldn't see any opposition to what you're trying to do with them.
Okay.
I don't, as a landscape architect, I don't have any opposition. So. I'm not speaking for David.
Yeah, I'm sure they want to take a look at it, and
Yep.
specificities about the type of plantings and, the irrigation. There's a streetscape design policy that they need to follow for downtown.
Okay.
I think we're ready for a motion. Someone wants to put one forward with I think with a condition of, we recommend that, lighting be maintained underneath likely in the current locations, but that safety and security prevail on if they're able to be the historic lights or new lights. Anyone? Bueller?
I can do it if you want.
All right. You had the wording for the lighting. So
Okay. All right. Excuse me, a little bit of frog in my throat. The design review board has reviewed the applicant's project for compliance with Rio Nuevo area design criteria and recommends to the Planning and Development Services Director approval, finding the project in compliance with the building design standards set forth, with the condition that we would request that you include functional lighting in the existing locations at the front of the building for safety and security purposes, and something in character with the building, not necessarily historic. Set forth in section 5.12.7.c 1 through 15 and 5.12.7d.
I second the motion.
all right.
All in favor?
All in favor? Ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Sounds like
All right.
we got you over this hurdle, Mike.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and your attention.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Michael. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up. Thanks,
Let
Maria.
us know
Thank
what
you,
comes out
Michael.
with that lighting.
I will. All right. Have a great day.
You
Thanks.
too.
Thank
Have a good
you.
weekend.
You too.
Thanks.
Any announcements?
Miss Bright, can you let us know what time you arrive? I'm sorry I didn't.
That's okay.
Notice.
I popped in a couple minutes late. I think it was around 8:35 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rosemary, did you just receive some big award?
Not that I know of.
No. Oh, I went through LinkedIn quickly and I saw something about some award. Maybe that was someone else. I'm sorry.
That's right.
You ruined the surprise, Carol. She gets it this weekend. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm sure she is deserving of it.
Oh, well, thank you.
I see Mr. Paul Monson in the call. I'm sorry I didn't realize you were here. Are you a member of the public, or were you representing also the Children's Museum?
No, just a member of the public and tuning in. I'm a developer in Phoenix and just getting a feel for Tucson. So really great meeting you guys ran here. I really like how you guys ran through everything.
Okay, thank you. And
Wouldn't that be happenstance, Maria? The one day I forget to even do my cursory call to the audience, we actually had someone in the audience.
Nice, Chris.
Haven't had one for years. I can't remember the last time we had someone that was here just because they wanted to be here. So apologies, Paul.
Not a problem at all, guys. You guys did great on a Friday, so thanks.
Okay. And so, Mr. Chair, for staff announcements, we don't have a immediate project that we're aware of coming to you soon. But I wanted to let you know the Fox Theater expansion proposal. I believe they're gonna, or if they haven't already, they're going to submit very soon their demolition permit request. So that's gonna move forward to mayor and council. So if they're successful with mayor and council, then they will come to you for RNA review.
May I ask a question to the board? This point of, I have a question about enforcement. The shade thing, could we have enforced shade trees along that north boundary just as part of the sustainable resiliency aspect of the UDC? I know, it's so like,
Maybe?
yeah,
I don't know.
because
Would they be in
Right.
the right of way though? I mean, would that be the city's responsibility, or are we talking about, having the Children's Museum foot the bill for that?
well,
We do that a
That-
lot, though. I'm not sure they meet that 50%. I think they're being a little reserved on that 50%. The shade cover in that corridor on Scott Avenue is pretty much 100%. I guess that's what they have. And then they have the two open sides, the north and the south side have no shade at all, right?
correct. Do we have any leg to stand on to it's like shaded sidewalks where there's sidewalks along there? I think
Maybe.
maybe we could have. I mean, can't go backwards now, but I always get a little confused about that aspect of resiliency and sustainability that is tied into the code.
Right. But within our requirements, we have that 50% number, which is our trigger for that conversation. And they met that number.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Ms. Clement, members of the DRB, yeah, the code, the way it's written, takes in consideration the entire square footage. It doesn't say per side or on each side.
Correct.
So,
Which probably
that-
helps with the flexibility of certain sites, right? Like,
Yeah.
like on that sorry, I think it's the south, like, you can't change that really without a little bit of hardship on or impact on street parking. So
They could just put an umbrella up.
You guys, I think we need to be able to understand this better, how we can have a leg to stand on for shade in these questionable areas. It seems like I butt up against it frequently.
Well, this
If
is
it
our
was-
opportunity, Carol. Like if they weren't meeting the 50%, then that's our trigger, right? Like how much more do you need? 50% is better than majority of commercial properties, like
Yeah, but it obviously is not taking care of that small ocean of asphalt that's their parking lot.
yeah. And if it
How
was
do you-
like an expansion project, they would have to bring that parking lot to code, but
correct.
it's not.
Right.
or
Right,
Mr.
thank you,
Chair,
Grace.
members of the DRB, also, if the parking lot was to, go through extensive repavement, restriping, they do need a building permit for that.
Well, they are doing
So-
that, I thought.
Are they?
Staying as is.
No, they're just doing the building at this point.
Oh, I thought I saw something about asphalt and striping.
The other thing is that their new 7-story building next door, that will provide quite a bit of shade.
It's true.
That's
And-
true.
And
Yeah.
Ms. Clement, just to let you know, this project here is the Westerner number 2. The Westerner is this historic building that was repurposed from offices a few years ago to low-income housing. So they're building a second unit back here, and it is a multi-story building. It went through the infill incentive district.
So is that why we didn't see it? It's because they
That's
went through
why
that
you didn't.
alternate process?
Exactly. That's why you didn't see it.
Yeah, Mr.
How are
Chair,
they-
I think that if somebody is not meeting the 50% shed for the shed study, then you probably have some grounds to
Mhm.
ask them to add those. But when somebody is meeting, which is required, it becomes a little bit tricky to then add or ask them to do additional stuff. And
Right.
especially as the code, they're looking at the overall, like Maria said, they're not looking at specific elevation or specific sites. So I think that's where the issue is here. Once they meet the 50%, then they have satisfied the code. If they are not meeting, then you can suggest that to them as a way to make them to get up to the 50%.
Right.
I see what you're saying, Carol. It's a concern and, it's it is something I think, it's, they're meeting the requirement, right? So our hands are a little tied, but if it could be a conditional add-on if we want at the end of we approve this, but we'd like you to investigate, adding a tree or two on this side of the building, from a design standpoint, from those wheel stops to the wall, that asphalt could be removed and there's enough room for 2 to
Right.
3 trees in there. Would they survive? Would it be the best condition for a tree to be in with, bumpers bumping into them and whatnot in that space? And that's
Well, but
Marginal,
that
but-
They
takes
also
me.
have a retaining condition over there.
it does have a slight retaining condition if I remember right.
Right. Okay. But it takes me, what is the actual number of required parking spaces? And could have a couple of those been taken out and planted with trees?
Sure, or diamonds put in instead, or
Yeah,
parking
right.
diamonds
I
and
mean,
stuff, sure.
so next time, maybe that is what is the required number of parking spaces? And then if we have any extra left over, can those be changed to planting areas?
Yeah. I guarantee
Right.
they're not meeting parking requirements based on the square footage of that building, but
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Ms. Clement, members of the DRB, they will need to meet the requirements for parking per the last approved development package for this site. I'm not sure when this was approved back in time.
1922.
But and
Yeah.
they're in the downtown area, so parking is different, parking requirements than your regular parking requirements somewhere else. So so right now I imagine this, because even the design of the parking, may be non-conforming at this point.
Yeah.
So unless they come in the future with improvements to this parking, then
So
that they may have to meet at least dimensionally some requirements.
Yeah, I see what Paige is referring to on the project
see it
description.
now,
It does
right?
say, yeah, it does say there new asphalt / striping in the parking lot.
But then when you
Okay, I
go
missed that.
down, it says they're not changing anything. So I don't know if that's just old and hasn't been updated.
Oh, is asphalt and striping?
Page 7, project
Thank you,
description.
Paige.
A.
Good catch. Is that a change that would initiate a redesign of parking lot? I mean, would that give us a in?
I think the
Uh,
question, does restriping the parking lot require a development plan? Because once you start the development plan, that's when they will check for all these code requirements, right, Maria?
correct.
Let's have the 25% or more improvement, right? Isn't that the trigger?
That was 50.
Uh, yeah,
For
whenever
full
there's
full code compliance, right? You have to increase a
Right.
building by 25% or increase
or
parking or
or parking area.
Yeah.
But they're not increasing, they're just upgrading, right? That's a maintenance would be, I think that'd be a maintenance or
Yeah.
so I think they'd probably wiggle out of it by saying it's a maintenance permit versus a
Mhm.
improvement permit, right?
Right.
Some sort of wording like that.
I think this was more in maintenance than actually additions.
But we'll see. I don't know. I'm glad that building's being occupied again. That's
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's
Well,
beautiful.
there's nothing we can do now, right? Unless they come back with a redevelopment of parking lot because for some reason they have to. But
Mhm.
perhaps we can just keep our radar on for future. In the future for this kind of issue.
Sounds like a plan.
waiting 2 minutes so we can land right at 9:30.
What did I miss?
Come on, Steve. Seriously.
I like that
9:29
thought.
now.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that
yeah.
thought. I like that thought.
No, good discussion. I think we end up talking at the end longer than any of us
Okay.
intend to, but it's nice to get a good, instead of doing it in front of applicants and during reviews, like kind of setting ourselves up for these conversations. So we know, Carol, when you bring that up again later on another one, we know where your head's at, right?
Right.
know what you're
And I will make an argument using verbiage from the sustainable, resilient documents. Because that is granted it's subjective because it's philosophy, but still it might give us something to stand on.
Well, good. I think we all ready to get out of here for the day.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none, let's adjourn this thing.
Thank you so
Thank-
much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
Good
Friday.
Weekend,
Friday.
everyone.
Thank you, Paige.
Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.